Hello friends, in this video I'm going to look at this Sony CD DVD player, which is model DVP-SR102P. This is at least 10 years old, maybe older. It doesn't have HDMI outputs, and it's based on component video along with RGB video. So this is obsolete by any measure, but I picked it up for $7.99 with half off, so that makes it just about $4 plus tax. And I bought this for kind of a specific reason, to evaluate the audio quality through the left and right audio outputs. This also can be used with any type of AV receiver that typically have this digital coax input. So even if the audio is lousy on this, this still would make a good CD player. I'll probably never use the DVD capability in the composite video, except maybe in this test just for fun. We'll see if I get that far or not. So I haven't plugged it in or turned it on, but we'll do that next. So as our very first test, I've got this plugged in. We'll hit the power and see what happens. I see a little on display here. Load. It's a good sign. Hit the open button. This has got this kind of funky, oh look, it comes with a free Disney Club Numbers Roundup. Wow, that helps defray my $4 cost. So I'm going to put in my trusty CD of free YouTube music that I can play without the YouTube copyright cops getting mad at me. Got it hooked up now to my receiver behind me, and we'll hit the play. There it is. This is my customary test music. We don't have much in the way of buttons here. Let's see if... So it looks like this is really intended to use with a Sony remote control. I've got a couple of those in my big remote control box, so we can try that out later. As a matter of fact, I've got one right behind me. So let's just see if that's compatible. I bet it is. Hit play. Nope. Now this is for a Blu-ray player, so okay, well that didn't work, but we will dig into the box later on. So as I indicated earlier, I'm going to be evaluating the audio quality of this, but as a first step, let's pop the lid on it and see what's going on inside. I took a total of 5 screws out of this. There were 1 on each side and 3 on the back. So we'll see if we can just lift this right off with one hand. It's always a little tricky. Usually have to pull a little on each side. Now, I can kind of tell from the general impression of this that this is a real low-cost unit. It's probably made fairly late in the life of DVDs, when those were still popular, before Blu-ray had come along, and of course now we're in a streaming era that's kind of supplanted Blu-ray. But you know, we've got a CD player here with a lot of plastic parts. This is the motor for the front tray, I believe. Got a motor tucked in there that we can't see. Here's a little real basic power supply. Let's see. Looks like this is a linear power supply. Yeah, it is. I think. Well, maybe it's a switching power supply. Who knows? Yeah, there's some signs of it. So this looks like an isolation opto isolator that's used in switching power supplies. Here's a diode bridge. This looks like the main inductive element, and in particular we're seeing 200 volts on this, so there's really a lot of signs as I look at it more that this is a switching power supply. Now look what we've got on this board. This has all the output connectors, some various bypass capacitors here. We've got a single large Sony chip and angle, and then this other angle which may be the D to A converter module. That's kind of a guess. You know, who knows how they divided things up. We've got a few basic cables that connect us to other elements. We've got a front panel board here that I'm showing you the rear of, that goes across this way. Looks like it kind of goes underneath all that. So you can tell that you know, this is not any kind of premium unit. It's probably designed to be as cheap as possible in an era where they really had to sell things for DVD players for cost. I seem to remember that in this era they were going kind of at their bottom. They were going for like $30 or so retail. The first one that I had went for something like the $300 range, so that's kind of where you go as the price curve comes down over a period of, you know, 3 or 5 years. So this is a pretty inexpensive unit. There's not a lot of reason to think that it has a fine audio section on it. It's probably the bare minimum. I'm kind of surprised that we have so many of these relatively large electrolytics here. But there are very few small passive components. I see what looks like a diode here, maybe. Got some, you know, surface mount resistors, things like that. So who knows what's on the other side of this board. There may be more interesting things on the other side of this board. But that's kind of what we can see from here. In fact, since this looks like it'll be pretty easy to put back together, I'm going to take these things off and look at the underside of this board. First I tried to pull these connectors out, but that was causing more force than I wanted to apply. So I took the screws out, and it looks like this can be kind of lifted up and folded. And I'm not real surprised to see another IC on the bottom. That appears to be an audio amplifier chip. Looks like that drives all the output signals, would be my guess. The key point there is it's got what looks like sort of a built-in heat sink in the middle of it. So that tells me it's a relatively high power within the scale of what this board is trying to do. The Sony chip says CD on it, so maybe that's kind of their generic CD controller chip. I'm still not sure what this other chip is about, but you know, who knows, wind bond it looks like. I put the lid back on this and plugged it in, and we'll see if it still works. So I've got a happy little CD DVD player here. Seems to be working just great. I'm gonna put it on my other unit and try out the digital interface on it. So I've moved it here on top of my other system. I'm set up for the CD connection on this unit, and I'm piped through the digital audio output here and of the receiver as input, and there it is again. So that illustrates a use case for this type of CD player. For $4 I can play CDs through the digital interface, and my audio quality in this case is really related to what's going on inside this Yamaha AV receiver. This is also kind of a vintage unit. I looked at the date code on the CD player, and it's February 2011, which is approximately the same vintage as this Yamaha AV receiver. So it's in the kind of, both are in the pre-HDMI era, I guess you could say. So we've got some happy little YouTube music here, and we'll call this a great success for $4. So in a future video I'm going to do a in-depth look at the audio outputs of this and some other players I've got, such as this much grander Sony SACD player. So look for that. And that ends our video here today. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye.